India. Land of towering mountains. Land of vibrant markets. Land of spirituality and contrasts. Tranquil waters, reflecting ancient temples. Fragrant incense, rising toward the sky. Prayer flags, fluttering across the Himalaya. Welcome to India. Welcome to the cradle of spirituality. Known as Bharat in its own language, this is a land where decorated elephants parade through the streets, where Bengal tigers move among mangrove forests, and where white marble palaces tell stories of emperors and lost dynasties. But let's start from the beginning. India extends from the heart of South Asia all the way to the shores of the Indian Ocean. And it is a true geographic giant that is home to over 1.5 billion people. This is not just a country, but a true subcontinent that is slowly moving northward by about 5 centimeters or 2 inches per year, pushing the Himalaya ever higher in a geological dance that has lasted for millennia, and that continues to shape the roof of the world. It is a nation that contains all the climates of the planet in a single land. From the frozen peaks of Kashmir, where winter reigns supreme, to the tropical forests of Kerala, where humidity envelops everything, passing through the arid deserts of Rajasthan, in the monsoonal plains that transform with the seasonal rains. In this extraordinary natural landscape flows the Ganges for over 2,500 kilometers, or 1,550 miles. A river that is not just water, but the very spirit of India. In fact, it is considered sacred by Hindus, and every year millions of people immerse themselves in it to purify themselves spiritually, seeking in its waters the connection with the divine. And spirituality here has roots that sink deep into time. India is the cradle of 4 great religions, which are Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, and from here they spread across the world, today influencing over 1.5 billion people. The country possesses more than 300,000 mosques, living testimony to the coexistence between different faiths and to the spiritual richness that permeates every corner of the nation. But devotion here takes surprising forms. In Rajasthan, for example, the Karni Mata temple houses over 25,000 rats, venerated as sacred. Or in Madhya Pradesh, reverence reaches even the governmental level with a ministry dedicated to cows, created to protect and manage the welfare of these bovines, considered sacred in much of the country. This profound respect for animal life is also reflected in the dietary habits of the population, there being here the largest vegetarian population in the world, with millions of people following a plant-based diet. But India is not only spirituality, it is also a mix of languages and voices, with 22 official languages and over 1,600 dialects. The state of Maharashtra alone has more languages than many European countries, making this land a place where every dialect carries with it ancient stories and traditions. And this diversity explodes also in festivities, there being more than 1,000 recognized throughout the year. From Diwali, which is the festival of lights that illuminates every home, to Holi, which is the festival of colors that transforms the streets into living canvases. This land has also given the world unexpected and precious treasures. It was the cradle of diamonds with the first known mines in the world located right here, or it was the motherland of the game of chess, as well as of shampoo. And the term shampoo derives from Sanskrit and means to massage. And Indians used natural herbs since ancient times to wash their hair. India, therefore, is much more than a simple country. It is an entire world, a universe that continues to tell its millennial story to anyone who has eyes to see and heart to feel. But now let's go discover the most incredible and iconic places of this nation. Taj Mahal. The white marble captures the light of dawn and transforms it into shades of pink and gold. Shah Jahan had this mausoleum built in 1632 for his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died during the birth of their 14th child. 22 years and 20,000 craftsmen were needed to complete it. The minarets lean slightly outward, so that in case of an earthquake, they would fall away from the central tomb. The gardens follow the Persian design of paradise, divided into 4 parts by water channels. Every surface is decorated with inlays of precious stones coming from Asia and the Middle East. When the sun sets, the monument passes from white to pink, then to orange and purple. Varanasi. The Ganges has flowed here for thousands of years, and with it flow the lives of millions of people. Varanasi is one of the oldest inhabited cities in the world, and for Hindus to die here means to break the cycle of reincarnations. There are about 84 ghats, which are the staircases toward the river, and each one has a different function. At dawn, pilgrims immerse themselves in the sacred waters to purify themselves, while funeral pyres burn day and night along the banks to cremate the deceased, and the ashes are then scattered in the current. When evening falls, thousands of lights dance on the water during the Aarti ceremony, an ancient Hindu worship ritual in which oil lamps are offered to the deities. Kerala. A system of interconnected lagoons and canals extends for 900 kilometers, or 560 miles, along the southwestern coast of India. Here, fresh water from the rivers mixes with the salt water of the sea, creating an ecosystem where coconut palms and spice plantations grow. The houseboats, called Kedovalam, were cargo boats for rice, but today they transport visitors through lagoons and canals. Kerala is located on the Malabar coast, which was the main world center of the spice trade for centuries. And even today, black pepper, cardamom, cloves, turmeric, and tea are still cultivated here. Along the coastal ports, moreover, the Chinese fishing nets installed in the 14th century rise and fall with the tides, witnesses of ancient commercial exchanges. Jaipur. The walls of the old city are painted pink, a color chosen in 1876 to welcome the Prince of Wales. This pink characterizes the entire historic architecture of the city, including the Palace of the Winds, with its 953 windows, built to allow the women of the court to observe city life without being seen. Not far away rises the city palace, still partially inhabited by the royal family, with the other sections that have been transformed into museums open to the public. In the heart of the city is the Jantar Mantar, an astronomical observatory from the 18th century, while at the entrance to the old city, the Patrika Gate welcomes visitors with 9 arches decorated with frescoes that tell the history and legends of Rajasthan. Among these monuments, then, wind the bazaars, which are labyrinths of alleys where they sell fabrics, jewelry, and spices. Leh-Ladakh. Leh is the capital of the ancient region of Ladakh, also called Little Tibet, for its Buddhist culture. The city's main monastery, Thiksi, is a 12-story palace built as a copy of the Dalai Lama's palace in Tibet. There is also Leh Palace, which dominates the city from above with its 9 floors of 17th century Tibetan architecture, while Lama Yuru Monastery is one of the oldest in Ladakh, and clings to the rocks at 3,500 meters, or about 11,485 feet in altitude. The territory extends between desert valleys and Himalayan passes that also exceed 5,000 meters, or about 16,400 feet, with air so rarefied that trees barely grow. Hampi. "500 monuments are distributed over 26 square kilometers, or 10 square miles of rocky landscape. In the 14th century, this was the heart of the Vijayanagara Empire, one of the richest cities in the world, where Arab and Persian merchants arrived to buy diamonds and fine fabrics. In 1565, the armies of the Deccan Sultanates destroyed the capital, leaving temples, palaces, and aqueducts in ruins among granite boulders. Among the most fascinating ruins stands the Vitala Temple, where there is a stone chariot with wheels that still turn. Here we also find the Virupaksha Temple, which continues to host ceremonies after 700 years of uninterrupted activity. The irrigation canals built centuries ago still function today, bringing water from the Tungabhadra River to the surrounding cultivations. Goa. Three centuries of Portuguese rule have left Baroque churches where the remains of Saint Francis Xavier rest, next to Hindu temples that smell of incense and frangipani flowers. The beaches of the north have attracted travelers for decades in search of something that goes beyond a simple vacation, while in the interior, the spice plantations grow among the forests of the Western Ghats, which host leopards, gores, and over 400 species of birds. Rice instead grows in terraced paddies that alternate with cashew groves. In the coastal villages, fishermen repair their nets before dawn, and when the sun sets, the night breeze carries the salty smell up to the hills of the interior, where macaques cross the roads between one house and another. Rishikesh and Haridwar. These two cities mark the border between the Himalayas and the plains, where the Ganges changes character and slows its course. Rishikesh hosts hundreds of yoga schools and ashrams, including the one where the Beatles studied meditation in the 60s. Here, every evening, the Lakshman Jhula suspension bridge fills with people who witness the Aarti, the ceremony of lights on the river. A little further downstream there is Haridwar, whose name means Gateway to God, and which welcomes every 12 years a pilgrimage that gathers millions of faithful who bathe in the waters of the river. Moreover, the steps that descend toward the water crowd daily with pilgrims who immerse the ashes of the deceased in the sacred waters to free souls from the cycle of reincarnation. Mumbai. The city wakes before dawn and never stops. Mumbai is home to 20 million people, distributed over 615 square kilometers, or 237 square miles, making it one of the densest urban areas on the planet. Local trains transport 8 million passengers every day, often with cars overflowing with people clinging to the doors. Here coexist the skyscrapers of Nariman Point with the slums of Dharavi, where 500,000 people live in less than 2 square kilometers, or less than 1 square mile. The Gateway of India faces the Arabian Sea, built in 1924 to commemorate the visit of King George V. While in the downtown streets there are street vendors of spice sandwiches and various stalls. Darjeeling. At 2,050 meters, or about 6,725 feet on the Himalayas, rises the world capital of tea, the last jewel of British colonial India. The steam toy train from 1881, a UNESCO heritage site, still winds along the mountain railway, which made this city famous. The city streets blend English colonial heritage with Himalayan culture, filled with the sense of tea, incense, and freshly made dumplings. Finally, the Tibetan monastery of Gum preserves the statue of Maitreya Buddha, a symbol for the refugees who found a home here after the invasion of Tibet. Jodhpur. Blue dominates the old city, where hundreds of houses are painted with indigo. This tradition was born centuries ago, when the Brahmins used the color to distinguish their dwellings, and today it has become the visual identity of the city. The Gwalior Fort rises on a hill, with walls up to 36 meters or 118 feet high, and 21 meters or 69 feet thick. It was built in 1459 by Rajata, who gave his name to the city. Inside, there are 7 gates, each built by a different Maharaja to commemorate military victories. The city is also home to several markets selling fabrics, spices, and silver jewelry, crafted using ancient techniques. Munnar. Tea plantations cover the hills like an emerald green mantle. Munnar is located at 1,600 meters, or 5,250 feet of altitude in the western Ghats of Kerala, where the temperature remains cool all year round. The English planted the first tea here in 1870, transforming tropical forests into orderly expanses of bushes. Today, the pickers select by hand only the top 2 leaves in the bud, and each plant is pruned regularly to keep it low and facilitate harvesting. The fog envelops the hills early in the morning and then dissolves, revealing valleys that seem never to end. Jaisalmer. A city emerges from the Thar Desert like a mirage of yellow sandstone. The walls and palaces are built with the same yellow stone, while a few kilometers away is Badabag, which is a garden where the cenotaphs of the local Maharajas rise, that is, domed structures that commemorate the sovereigns of a dynasty. The fort is one of the last in the world still inhabited, with about 3,000 people living inside its walls. It was built in 1156 on a hill to control the trade routes through the desert, and precisely thanks to this traffic, the city accumulated wealth for centuries. Today, the desert slowly advances toward the dwellings, while camels still transport visitors among the sand dunes that surround the city, where once spices and silk passed headed toward the west. Pangong Lake. A salt lake divides the border between India and Tibet for 134 kilometers, or about 83 miles. Its waters change color during the day, and in winter they transform into an expanse of ice, where salt crystals create plays of light under the sun. The lake is a fundamental stopping point for migratory birds, which fly between Central Asia and India. On its shores, the local nomadic tribes of the Changpa bring their yaks to pasture, which are enormous bovines adapted to life at high altitude. Pushkar. A sacred lake is located in the center of the city, surrounded by 52 ghats, where pilgrims purify themselves. According to Hindu tradition, Brahma, the creator of the universe, made a lotus flower fall here, and water gushed from the earth. The temple dedicated to Brahma is one of the few existing in India, built in the 14th century with white marble and red stone. Every November, the camel fair is held, when 50,000 animals are brought here to be sold or traded. The streets of the city also fill with stalls that sell fabrics, jewelry, and musical instruments. Sikkim and Gangtok. The small Indian state of Sikkim opens up like a balcony onto the Himalayas, overlooking the third highest mountain in the world, Kanchenjunga. For centuries, it remained an independent kingdom until 1975. Its forests, thick and humid, host the rare red panda, while the valleys are fragrant with wild orchids and cardamom, cultivated and sold in local markets. Nestled along a mountain ridge, Gangtok is the capital of Sikkim. Here, the Lal Bazaar market bustles with merchants and colors, while the Rumtek monastery, not far away, continues to preserve the Kagyu Buddhist tradition in a complex that recalls the grandeur of lost Tibet. A cable car soars over the city, connecting the neighborhoods, and from above you can see the roofs that climb along steep slopes. Kochi. The Chinese fishing nets rise and fall along the port since the 14th century, and their presence tells how Kochi has been for centuries, one of the most important ports of the Malabar coast. Here, ships arrived loaded with Arab, Chinese, Portuguese, and Dutch merchants. And this trade transformed the city into a crossroads of cultures and religions. The Paradesi Synagogue, built in 1568, testifies to the ancient Jewish community that settled in the city, while the Fort Kochi neighborhood preserves the colonial churches that alternate with Hindu temples and mosques. There is also the Mattancherry Palace, which guards some frescoes that narrate the ancient epic poem Ramayana, and the same epics are still represented today in the city's theaters through Kathakali, which is a traditional dance where performers put on makeup for hours. Agra. The Taj Mahal attracts 8 million visitors every year, but Agra guards many other treasures of the Mughal era that tell the history of this dynasty. The Red Fort, for example, extends over 38 hectares, or 94 acres along the Yamuna River, built by Emperor Akbar in 1565, with red sandstone brought from Rajasthan. And it was precisely in a tower of this fort that the creator of the Taj Mahal spent the last 8 years of his life imprisoned by his son, observing from the window the mausoleum he had built for his wife. "40 kilometers, or 25 miles away, is Fatehpur Sikri, an imperial capital inhabited for only 15 years before being abandoned for lack of water. In the markets of Agra, traditional sweets and colorful fabrics are sold, while the streets fill with the scent of spices and freshly baked bread. Rameswaram. A temple extends over 6 hectares, or 15 acres, and is surrounded by a corridor with 1,200 carved columns, each decorated with different motifs. It is located on an island connected to the mainland by a railway bridge built in 1914 and by a more recent road bridge, and according to the Ramayana, it was from here that Rama built a bridge of floating stones toward Sri Lanka to save his wife. Also for this reason, pilgrims come from all over India to immerse themselves in the 22 sacred wells inside the temple, each with water of different taste, which is believed to have purifying properties. At the extremity of the island is Dhanushkodi Beach, where the Indian Ocean meets the Bay of Bengal. But here in 1964, a cyclone completely destroyed the city, now leaving only ruins of colonial buildings wrapped in sand. Delhi. Eight cities have been built here over the course of 3,000 years, and each one has left overlapping layers of history. The Qutub Minar rises for 73 meters, or 240 feet, built in 1193 with red sandstone decorated with verses from the Quran. While Humayun's tomb, completed in 1572, was the first garden mausoleum of the subcontinent and inspired the architecture of the Taj Mahal. In 1911, the British decided to move the capital from Calcutta to Delhi and built New Delhi, a new city with wide avenues that connect monumental government buildings. This modern Delhi coexists with the old Mughal city, where the Jama Masjid, which is the largest mosque in India, dominates a 17th century market with 6,000 shops that sell spices, fabrics, and jewelry in narrow alleys. The metro, moreover, is the main means of transportation and transports 4 million passengers per day through 350 kilometers or 217 miles of tracks that connect the ancient to the modern. Mahabalipuram. The sculptures emerge from living rock along the coast of the Bay of Bengal, where history meets the sea. This city was an ancient port of the Pallava dynasty and today guards some of the most fascinating stone structures in India. The lighthouse rises on a rocky spur and has guided navigators for centuries, offering a panoramic view of the coast. The shore temple instead resists the tides since 700 AD, built entirely with granite blocks that demonstrate the skill of ancient artisans. Here, the golden beaches alternate with monuments carved in stone, creating a landscape that contrasts with the mountains of the Himalaya and shows another incredible face of India. Manali and Rohtang Pass. One of the most spectacular roads in India climbs with 51 hairpin turns toward the clouds, separating two completely different regions, the green valley of Manali and the desert plateaus of Ladakh. Rohtang Pass is a crossing point with snow that is often present during the year, and for centuries now, merchants and travelers have used this passage as a bridge between India and Tibet. In the old part of Manali, instead, temples built in wood 500 years ago recall ancient Indian legends, while not far away, waterfalls and thermal waters rich in sulfur spring forth. Local life is still based on mountain agriculture and pastoralism, traditional activities that today coexist with tourism. During summer, moreover, shepherds bring their flocks through the pass, following the ancient transhumance routes. Varkala. The red cliffs rise for 15 meters, or 49 feet, above the Arabian Sea, and this is one of the few places in the state of Kerala where the mountains meet the ocean directly, without intermediate flat beaches. Fishermen go out at dawn with traditional boats called valam, returning with the catch that they sell directly on the beach, and along the coast alternate small villages where houses face the sea. During the monsoon, the waves reach considerable heights, and the beach empties. While from November to April, the sea calms, allowing visitors to bathe in the warm waters of the ocean. Spiti Valley. The Spiti Valley reveals an ancient story in its mountains. Its marine fossils from 100 million years ago, in fact, testify that here, once upon a time, there was an ocean. Perched on a rock at more than 4,000 meters, or about 13,125 feet in altitude, rises Key Monastery, a fortress temple built more than 1,000 years ago, where Buddhist monks preserve ancient sacred texts in rooms lit only by traditional butter lamps. In this remote valley, some of the highest inhabited villages on Earth are found, which remain completely isolated for half the year, when winter brings polar temperatures of 30 degrees below zero, or about minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. The river that gives the valley its name, moreover, has carved very deep gorges between the mountains, creating one of the most extreme landscapes in the Himalayas. Meghalaya. The name means abode of the clouds, and here fall over 11,000 millimeters, or 433 inches of rain per year, making this region one of the wettest on the planet. During the monsoon, the clouds envelop the hills and the rain falls uninterruptedly for months, transforming the landscape into a brilliant green expanse, where hundreds of streams and rivers flow. Precisely these atmospheric conditions have pushed the tribes to develop a unique technique to cross the rivers. That is to make living bridges grow, intertwining aerial roots of ficus trees. The Nokkalikai waterfalls plunge for 350 meters, or 1,148 feet, into a green pool surrounded by rainforest, while the Seven Sisters Falls divide into 7 parallel waterfalls that descend along rocky walls covered with moss. The forests host rare orchids that grow on trees, and the constant humidity feeds a vegetation so thick that the sun struggles to reach the ground. Alleppey. The canals intertwine for hundreds of kilometers, creating a navigable water network. Alleppey is the starting point to explore the lagoons of Kerala, where floating villages have existed since the time when the spice trade passed via water. The houseboats float slowly among coconut palms and flooded rice paddies, while fishermen still use traditional nets that immerse and emerge following particular movements. During the rainy season, the canals fill up, and the landscape becomes a mosaic of green and blue. Nubra Valley. Beyond Kardung La, one of the highest motorable passes in the world, lies a valley where two humped camels walk among the dunes at 3,000 meters, or about 9,850 feet above sea level. Diskit Monastery has watched over the valley for 350 years, while apricot trees bloom in the villages, creating an oasis of green in the high-altitude desert. The caravans that traveled the Silk Road stopped here to get water supplies and rest before crossing the Himalayan passes. The Shyok River, finally, draws meanders between the mountains, while white sand dunes contrast with the barren mountains that reach 6,000 meters, or about 19,685 feet. Orcha. The Betway River flows next to palaces and temples built between the 16th and 17th centuries, when Orcha was the capital of the Bundela Kingdom. The rulers of this dynasty wanted to demonstrate their power through architecture. The Jahangir Mahal, in fact, was built in 1 year to host the Mughal emperor during a visit, with 132 rooms distributed over 3 floors. Not far away, the Raja Mahal preserves frescoes that decorate walls and ceilings, testimony to the refinement of the court. But the most particular place is the Ram Raja Temple, the only one in India where Rama is venerated as king rather than as deity, and every day receives military honors with uniformed guards. This custom confirms how in Orcha, temporal and spiritual power merge. Pelling. From this village you can see Kanchenjunga, the third highest mountain in the world, with its 8,586 meters, or 28,169 feet. Pelling is located at 2,000 meters, or 6,560 feet of altitude, in western Sikkim, where the air is thin and clouds envelop the rhododendron forests. The Pema Yangtze Monastery dates back to 1705 and is reserved for Buddhist monks of pure Tibetan descent, while a few kilometers away are the ruins of Rabdensa, capital of Sikkim, destroyed in 1814 during the Nepalese invasion. Here the mountains dominate the horizon, the monasteries guard ancient prayers, and Pelling remains suspended between sky and earth. Zanskar Valley. A valley so remote that it remains isolated for 2/3 of the year. In winter, the Zanskar River becomes an ice highway, which monks travel to move between monasteries, with temperatures that drop to 30 degrees below zero, or about -22 degrees Fahrenheit. The villages accumulate during summer supplies of barley and yak butter to survive the harshest months. When the ice melts, however, the valley awakens, and herds of yaks are led to high-altitude pastures where grass grows lush under the Himalayan sun. Athirapally Waterfalls. Water plunges from 80 meters, or 262 feet high, crossing layers of ancient lava rock. Here, the rainforest of Kerala guards rare orchids and endemic species that you will not find elsewhere in India. The Chalakudi River divides into white rivulets before rejoining in the pool below, while lion-tailed macaques watch from the highest branches. During the monsoon, the flow increases, and the roar can be heard kilometers away. The local tribes have considered this place sacred for generations, and still today celebrate rituals linked to the cycle of rains. Shimla. The ancient mountain city where the British took refuge to escape the heat of India rises at 2,200 meters, or about 7,220 feet, wrapped in an almost constant fog. A historic railway, built by the English, crosses through 102 tunnels in the rock, creating one of the most spectacular train journeys in India. The main street of the city maintains its colonial appearance intact, while troops of monkeys have made the roofs their territory. On the highest point of the city, finally, a Hindu temple with a gigantic sacred statue watches over the valley, while further below, the traditional market comes alive with stalls selling spices and local teas. Gwalior Fort. This fortress dominates the city of the same name, from a height of sandstone rock that rises for 100 meters, or 328 feet. Its walls enclose 15th century palaces, decorated with turquoise and yellow ceramic tiles. Inside the fort, the Man Singh Palace hosts frescoed rooms, and also rise the Sas Bahu temples dedicated to Vishnu, with finely carved columns that testify to the skill of medieval artisans. The followers of Jainism, instead, have carved into the rock at the foot of the hill statues 15 meters, or 49 feet tall, some damaged during invasions, but still visible. In the underground, there are the ancient prisons, and if you climb the ramps and look at the plain, you immediately understand why this place was impregnable. Nashik. Every 12 years, millions of pilgrims reach the city to immerse themselves in the Godavari River during the Kumbh Mela, which is one of the largest religious gatherings in the world. The faithful arrive from all over India to bathe in the sacred ghats, like Ram Kund, which is the point where, according to legend, a drop of the nectar of immortality fell. The waters here wash, according to tradition, the sins of entire lives. But Nashik is not only faith. In fact, the surrounding hills host vineyards that produce much of Indian wine, in a country where viticulture is still a novelty. Today, the city pulses between ancient and modern, with temples next to wineries and morning rituals followed by evening tastings. Gangotri. Here, the Ganges River is born from the Gangotri Glacier at almost 4,000 meters, or about 13,125 feet in altitude. The water descends from the Himalayan mountains and crosses India for 2,000 kilometers, or about 1,240 miles, all the way to the Bay of Bengal. Every year, thousands of pilgrims reach the village of Gangotri to immerse themselves in the sacred waters and pray in the temple dedicated to the goddess Ganga. The Hindu tradition, in fact, considers this river a divinity which purifies the soul and washes away sins. Punjab. The wheat and rice fields extend as far as the eye can see, irrigated by a system of canals built during the colonial period. This land nourishes India, and the Green Revolution of the 60s started from here, transforming Punjab into the granary of the country. But progress has a price. The intensive use of fertilizers, in fact, has impoverished the soil, while the water tables drop every year by a few meters. Here we also find the Golden Temple of Amritsar, which attracts faithful from all over the world, who then eat for free in the largest community kitchen on the planet, which is located right in this temple. Majuli. The largest inhabited river island in the world we find in the Brahmaputra River, and it shrinks more every year due to erosion. Once it measured 1,200 square kilometers, or 463 square miles. Today it counts less than 400 or 154 square miles. The monasteries called satra preserve mask dances and devotional songs that date back to the 16th century. Here life flows with the slow rhythm of the waters. There are fishermen who repair nets on the banks, women who weave hyacinth baskets, children who row towards school on small canoes. During the rainy season, the river expands and redraws the boundaries of the island, submerging rice paddies and bamboo villages. Ellora Caves. In Maharashtra, 34 temples emerge from a mountain wall like a vertical art gallery carved in rock. Here, for 15 centuries, three religions have coexisted, and Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain temples follow one another along the basalt wall. The Kailasa temple is the heart of the complex. To create it, sculptors removed 440,000 tons of rock from top to bottom, as if they were freeing an architecture already contained in the mountain. During monsoon, water flows along the carved walls, transforming the reliefs into natural waterfalls. Statue of Unity. Touching the sky of Gujarat with its 182 meters, or 597 feet, rises a titan of bronze and steel that tells a story of unification. This monument to Sardar Patel, inaugurated in 2018, is not just the world's tallest statue, but a prodigy of modern engineering. Its structure, designed to resist fierce winds of 180 kilometers per hour, or 112 miles per hour, and earthquakes up to 6.5 magnitude, guards in its interior a panoramic elevator. Visitors ascending through the statue's heart reach a magnificent view of the dam and Satpura mountain chains, contemplating the legacy of the man who transformed 562 princely states into a united nation. Concluding this visual journey through India, we have moved from the charm of its ancient temples to the cities and most extraordinary landscapes, exploring together not only places, but also curiosities that make every corner of this land unique. We hope that the images and stories told have enriched your knowledge and stimulated the desire to personally explore the extraordinary richness of this fascinating subcontinent.